Well, thank you for joining us every Saturday for the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. You're here for the second half, and we always say the second half is the best half, so hopefully you enjoyed the halftime show.
With no wardrobe malfunctions?
No wardrobe malfunction, but this is good stuff. Again, we're super excited about this show because we only get so many opportunities to share with you a new segment that we've started for you, and it's for us, we'll have to say, because this is one of our most favorite segments called Interview with the Giants, and it's our opportunity to interview some of the top professionals, coaches, mentors, you name it, in the nation, and we have one of the best in the nation, and probably my biggest mentor and coach over 20 years now, and has changed my life, not just in business, but in my life. He's helped me figure out how to persevere in my business, bring on great people like Gino on my team, and our entire team of like 70 now, which is really nice by persevering, but also balancing my life and enjoying life and being faith-filled to continue on and help others with that. And you've helped me mentor others and become a mentor to them, basically following in your footsteps. So Todd, thank you for changing our lives and being part of our show today, Todd.
No, it's great to be with you guys, and the credit goes to you. You guys are the ones that made the change, right? I simply am a kind of a lighthouse of sorts, or maybe a purveyor of wisdom, and it's always really provides a ton of gratitude to me when I watch people that execute, when I watch people that make the change they want to be, they become the change that they want to see. And so hats off to you guys, because you get all the credit. You did the hard work.
Well, thanks. We talked about that.
Yeah, well, we could appreciate that. But, also, it's weird. Sometimes you don't see the change happening. You're doing all the right things. Yeah. You're doing all the right activities. You're putting forth all the right effort, but you don't see the change happening. I think that's where people give up. They don't have that perseverance. It's been a word that's now come up 2 or 3 times as we talk. I think you have to keep pushing. You have to keep pressing. And, I just saw one of these silly videos on Facebook last week, but it reminded me, of a Chinese bamboo that you have to water for 5 years and it doesn't grow. And then all of a sudden it grows 90 feet in the next 60 days or something like that. And it reminded me that sometimes you have to be you have to have faith in the things the activities that you're doing, that they're gonna result in the goals that you're trying to achieve. And we've been lucky enough that we had that vision. We kept pressing hard, and things are going great.
Yeah, we were talking to you about that, Todd, where when you allowed me to speak on stage at Sales Mastery a few years back, and how we said, here's what we're doing to handle the market and move forward and persevere and all that, and that we had faith, and here's what we're doing to do that. So we've actually backed that up, which you make sure we do, because if we're going on stage, we better back up, walk the walk. And now we went from a tiny office the size of our studio here with 5 of us to now basically 7 offices, 70-something people, and instead of funding $3 million a month, we're funding $40 to $50 million a month in home loans, meaning we're helping more and more people with the dream of home ownership. And it's a beautiful thing, and that's why we love having you as our mentor and being part of our show. So we'll dive in.
I do want to chip in that that wasn't without adversity, because that's what we were going to focus on this segment with adversity. That's where the perseverance comes in, is when you encounter adversity, you must be able to push through it and not get distracted by the adversity that you face. So, Todd, hopefully you could give us a little insight on that.
Yeah. Do we have another couple hours?
It takes that, no doubt.
Well, I think 2 things come to mind. Number one, it's interesting that people do give up. And one of the rules that we teach is this rule called the 95% rule, which basically sounds like this. 95% of the people go 95% of the way, and they end up getting about 5% of what's available to them. 5% that go 100% of the way end up getting about 95% of what's available to them. And it is in those last moments, those last seconds, those last yards, that last shot, that, one more month. I mean, when I started my company right now, which is now in its 26th year, I made calls for 7.5 months without getting one person to say yes. And I'm talking about hundreds of calls a week. And my mentor told me it's never a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. Pay attention to your strategy, pay attention to your active listening, Every time you call back, have a heart for helping. Don't think about selling. And he said, you just got to stay on it because everybody else is going to quit. And I remember right about the 8th month mark, we got a phone call and we got our first contract. And in the next 30 days, we got 41 contracts.
Oh,
and
wow.
I think about that experience, and I think about the adversity. And I can tell you right now, I remember 3 times that I went to the beach in La Jolla, California, where I was working and living, and I literally cried on the beach because I did not have the faith that if I kept going, it was going to work. And all I heard in the back of my mind was my mentor saying, everybody else quits, keep going. It's never a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. Change your strategy, don't give up. And then all of a sudden, you will hit now what is called the proverbial tipping point, right? And in the next 3 months of that year, we booked almost $1 million in contracts. And I think now, 26 years later, that if I had not stuck it out 26 years ago in the face of all the adversity that was staring at me, making calls, trying to get a company off the ground, I would not have had a chance to transform an industry and a world around the concepts of high trust.
Well, let me add some real quick there, Todd, because a lot of our listeners don't understand that, okay, you were blazing a trail. Because it wasn't like you're like, well, here's a few other companies that are already doing this, and I'm just going to be another one to piggyback on that. You were the original one when nobody in our industry had training and coaching available for the mortgage industry at all. You were blazing a trail, so you had to have faith that that's what we needed, and that you were the guy to provide that for us. So that's what I'm saying. I just have to clarify that when you were blazing a trail, so that takes on 10 times the faith.
Well, and that also, every entrepreneur, you had a vision. You saw there was a need for it, and you wanted to fill that need, and those that were in need of it being filled didn't know they needed it.
Yeah, and I think that then what ends up happening then is you start to realize that in the midst of adversity, there are these gems of wisdom, right? And so let's look at somebody who doesn't set goals because they're afraid of failure. Okay, that will produce more failure. And it will produce more of an attack on their self-worth and their self-esteem just by not setting goals. And then setting goals and not having faith and having fear will manifest a lack of activity on your way to achieving those goals. And so you will give up on the goals. And then once you achieve the goals, because you stay with it, same adversity, right? It's just a matter of your level of commitment. Once you achieve the goal, you never, ever go back to the previous you were at. And I think that's what really marks the power of adversity. In fact, I am toying with a book concept right now, and I'll just tell you, I think there's more value in understanding the power of failure than there is to understanding the reward of success. In fact, if I could coach anybody on anything, I would tell them, make failure the centerpiece of your success strategy. I would literally
well, then we're in. We should be, no wonder where we're at.
The faster you reconcile in your mind that not only is failure okay, not only is it good, it is the #1 ingredient to achieve a level of success. There is no shortcut to being successful. Because if there were, everybody would be.
That's true.
And sadly what ends up happening, you guys, is people lose their passion, they lose their faith, they lose their confidence, and they don't have the ability to reset the mental mechanisms each and every day and multiple times during the day to keep on going. And that's what separates the winners from the rest. That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, it goes right back to, go ahead.
In fact, there is absolutely no such thing as success if there were not something called failure. It's impossible. It's like the day and night. There's no real way to win unless there is also a real way to lose. Lose, win, right? There is no light if there were not something like day, right? There's day and night, dark and light. There's no such thing as success if there's no such thing as failure, because it's not defined, right? So you gotta love it. I tell people, not I want this to be your resonating thought every day, but the faster you eat failure in the morning, the more likely you're going to have success the rest of the day. And it's really powerful as a concept. And I think people just hope is this, like, unbelievably powerful mechanism for people to keep going, that they have a faith and they have a hope that what I'm doing is going to work. And they have the common sense en route to stop long enough and say, what part of my strategy isn't working? Sadly, what most people do is they don't look at strategy changing. They change goals because they have an ineffective strategy.
More pearls of wisdom. Always good stuff from Todd Duncan. Again, Gino's my mentor, friend, coach, leader of Sales Mastery for 26 years. Great information. Remember, we have one more segment left with Todd Duncan. This is great stuff. We're here with the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show, an interview with the giants, and Todd Duncan is one of those giants. So stay tuned for the last segment. I guarantee pearls of wisdom coming your way.